In this video, I'm gonna show you my most powerful sales techniques you can use to close over the phone. And you wanna make sure you watch this video all the way through because not only am I gonna show you my most powerful techniques, but I'm gonna show you step by step how you can even close a prospect in just one phone call. What's going on, everybody? Patrick here. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's go ahead and dive into these powerful phone sales techniques. So the first thing we're gonna talk about in this video is how to close somebody on the first call. Now, before we even get started with how this strategy works, you have to understand that there's some context to it, okay? You cannot sell every single person you talk to on the first call. It's just not gonna happen. Like if you are selling, let's say, a software or a consulting service to a large enterprise company like a Nike, right? Or Adidas, they are not gonna close on one call because there's a lot of approval processes before someone actually buys something. So understand those people, you're not gonna close on the first call. Typically for one call closes, it's going to be things that are a lot more transactional, meaning it's not super complicated, after they buy your product and service, like a coaching service, or maybe a refrigerator, or maybe you're selling plumbing services, like something very like transactional, easy to understand. And it's nothing like crazy where there's a lot of integrations and strategic partnerships, nothing too crazy, right? Also, for one call closes, typically, you're not gonna be able to cold call someone and just close them on the phone. That's possible, but what I see is a lot more likely is, let's say a company has some kind of inbound lead, and whether it's a marketing or an ad or something like that, they go through some kind of process of learning about the company. And then when that person is ready, they're gonna, schedule a time to call someone, and then a salesperson will get on the phone and close that lead. That's basically an inbound lead, right? So one call closes can work for transactional sales, typically for inbound leads, which people are already warmed up a bit, and that's how they're more likely to close. You can't do one call close outside of this specific situation, but the chances are less likely, right? So I'm just telling you what's going on in the industry right now. So now that you understand the context, let's go ahead and dive into how you actually do these closes. For things that are more transactional, typically there's two ways to do it. Number one is you get their credit card information while they're on the phone with you, right? Number two is you send them a link and they fill out their credit card information on a separate page on their own, but they do it while they are talking to you on that call, okay? Now, obviously, not everyone feels comfortable saying their credit card number on the phone. So they might want to opt for option number two, but you'd be surprised that some people are okay with that if you're a trustworthy person, trustworthy company, right? And look, before I even go into the technique, I'll say it right here. Some people, right, they believe that this maybe doesn't fit their style, where maybe it's too high pressure, too slimy, right? So I totally understand that if you don't resonate with this style of closing in one call and maybe it doesn't fit your company, then that's okay, because this strategy may not be for you and you don't have to use it. But by learning this video and watching it through, you can understand how other people do it and incorporate some of the elements to your close and make it more of your style. And also, it is a little bit of a high pressure technique, without a doubt. However, you have to understand that if the person buys your product and service and you truly 100% stand by your product and service, you have a guarantee, you have a refund, and you provide great customer service, and you have proven results for other people once they buy, well, you can feel confident that if someone buys, you're actually changing their life in a positive way. But if you're selling something that's not great and you don't have a good refund policy and things like that, I would not recommend using this technique. It's only if you actually provide something of value that people will actually pay for. Okay, so this is pretty much how it works. What happens towards the end of a meeting, right? You already, in the beginning of the meeting, actually you kind of introduce yourself, they understand who you are, you build rapport, you talk about their problems, they have a problem, you solve the problem with your product and service, you go through a little pitch, and then they're like, okay, I can understand how Patrick can solve my problem. From there, at the end, you're going for the close, right? So let's say we want to get their credit card information, and at the end of the call, you basically just say, is there anything else you need to see before moving forward? If they say, yes, I need to see something else, then you go through those objections. Once you go through those objections, you say it again. So now that we covered some of those things, is there anything else you need to see before moving forward? Because I really want to make sure that this is the right fit for you before you, make any type of commitment, right? And this is true. So they're gonna say, nope, I think that's everything I need to see before moving forward. And then you could say something like, would you like to get started right now? And so if the person is willing to get started right now, they see it's a good fit and this is what they want to do, then they will say, sure, how do we exactly get started? And you would just explain them the process. You say, well, while we're talking on the phone, what we can do is you can go ahead and tell me your credit card number. I'll put it into the system, and then we can go ahead and process the payment so you can get started right away. But don't worry, because we're not saving your credit card information. We're doing it all on Stripe. So once I put it in the system, nobody has your number anymore. Is that okay with you? So if the person feels comfortable, what happens is, they give you the number, you put it into Stripe, charge the payment, and then boom, done. Now, in the event that someone doesn't want to give their credit card information, that's totally okay, right? Because not everyone is comfortable doing that if there's not enough trust built, and that happens. So in that situation, what you want to do is you want to send them a link where they can go ahead and pay. So you will say, okay, look, I'm gonna send you a link right now. So let's say you're doing a Zoom call, right? You send them a link and you say, okay, you're gonna go on that page, you're gonna fill it out with your credit card information, and you're gonna go ahead and check out, and I'll go ahead and wait on the line while you get that done. So if the person really wants to buy, they go on the link, put in their information, and they buy it, and then you get a confirmation, and then you say, okay, can you go ahead and read out your order number so I can confirm it with our system? And why you wanna do that is because you don't want people who pretend to put in their information and then not have an order number, right? So there has to be like some kind of validation that they're gonna read to you on the call to make sure that they actually bought it. It could be like a secret code on the page when they get to a successful checkout, or it could be like literally an order number that aligns with Stripe. Now, if they don't have a number or they don't have the secret code, then they probably didn't do it. So you don't want to pressure someone to buy if they don't wanna buy, right? You basically just wanna ask like, look, it doesn't seem like the payment went through, and from my understanding, it's like maybe you're not ready to buy. Is that the case here, right? And so you want to understand like why aren't they willing to buy? Is there another objection that they have, or maybe the timing is not right, or maybe they need to talk with another decision maker before they move forward with the purchase? It can be many different reasons, right? So you don't have to force someone to buy in the moment. You just don't, right? That it's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to understand why they're not buying and go through those objections. So if it's that they need to talk it over with their business partner, then okay, that's fine. Let them talk it over with their business partner, maybe schedule another meeting for everyone to be on a call to make sure everyone understands what they're paying for. And then if it makes sense, then they can make the decision, right? If someone is hesitant to buy, or they're not, putting in their information and there's no confirmation, do not force them to buy it, because I think that's the wrong thing to do. The right thing to do is to understand what would make them comfortable with moving forward, right? Because you're not trying to, you don't want to trick someone into buying something, because number one, if they are not happy with their services, then they're going to ask for a refund. And if you offer a refund, you got to give it back. So what's the whole point, right? If you know they're not a good fit, don't sell it to them. Now, in other cases, let's say the prospect's not going to buy on that one call, which happens, right? If you know that they have multiple steps before making a purchasing decision, don't try to close them on the first call, because it's just a little rude to try to force something where they're kind of telling you like, look, we're not gonna close on the first call. We need to do X, Y, Z before we actually move forward with a deal, right? So whatever those processes are, you just go through those processes, whether it's having multiple meetings, negotiations with different teams, whatever it is, you go through that process. Now, the other way people close when it's more of a longer sales cycle is you don't necessarily have to close them on that call right there. What you would do is you would send them the contract, then you would send them a page to put in the information to actually make a purchase. So it's like a two thing, right? It's the contract they have to sign, and then it's the payment processing. And then once you get those 2 steps done, then you get your money, right? So for a longer sales cycle, you have to understand that people need to sit on it, people need to read the contracts, and people need to have time to discuss before they make a decision. And then eventually they're gonna make a decision, right? So don't force it if it's not appropriate. Understand the timeline of the prospect. And if it's someone that should buy sooner than later, then let them buy it. If it's someone that should not buy right now and should buy later on based on their situation, don't force the sale right there. So now we're gonna move into the next phase, which is when prospects ask for a discount, okay? So in B2B sales, pretty much everyone's gonna ask for a discount. That's just how the industry works, right? Prospects or customers, they understand that when they're trying to buy something from a software company, consulting, all the prices are generally inflated, right? That's just how it works, right? So let's say like if Microsoft is selling something for $20,000, right? They're gonna say, okay, if you buy this, it's $20,000. But in reality, the price should be $15,000, but they know, Microsoft knows that customers always negotiate. So they will say, okay, it's $20,000 and negotiate down to 15. Customers who are educated understand that Microsoft will inflate their price because they know that customers always ask for a discount. So the customer is also smart, and they'll say, okay, you're charging 20,000, but I think it should be 15. So basically, if 15,000 is the right price, then both sides will kind of agree to lower the price, right? And so pretty much if you're working at Oracle, Salesforce, Facebook, Google, they all pretty much do the same thing. So when they ask for that discount, essentially what you want to do is you want to give them that discount, but you want something in return. So if you're selling a product or service and you know that you want to walk away with at least $7,000, that's your absolute minimum. You're not doing a deal less than $7,000. So what you could do is you could charge like 20-30% higher, and you say, okay, it's $10,000. So $10,000 is the price you give your prospect. They will always ask for a discount. Even if you charge them $7,000, they will still ask for a discount. So if I say, okay, my services cost $10,000, they're gonna say, Patrick, I want a 20% discount to make it $8,000, right? They want a good deal. If I initially came out and said, okay, I charge $7,000, they're still gonna say, I want another 20% discount, I want $1,000 off, and now it's $6,000. So no matter what price you give somebody, most likely they're gonna ask for a discount because that's how people are trained to do B2B sales. So you're gonna want to anchor them at something higher, like 10K, and then you're gonna say, okay, well, I can give, if they say, okay, I want a discount, Patrick, you say, okay, well, I'm not sure if I can do that, but I can go ahead and talk to my team and management to see if we can work something out. Typically what we can do for people is, I've seen it in the past where somebody asks for a 20% discount, we can't just give it for free because it doesn't make sense business-wise. But if you're able to sign it on a specific day, or maybe if you're able to make the decision right now on this call, then I might be able to get that for you. Is that something you wanna do? So what happened is if, let's say it's a longer sales cycle, what happens is you talk to your boss, you say, okay, look, this person wants a 20% discount. Are we gonna give it to them? Your boss says, okay, well, it's 8,000, not 7,000, right? It's okay, give it to them. So you're gonna go back and say, okay, talk to my boss, he says 8,000 is okay, but can you send it by the end of the week? Because that's the only time it's valid. They're gonna say, all right, that's fine. I got a 20% discount, I saved $2,000, but I'm gonna sign it anyway, so I might as well just sign it at the end of the week, you're done. If you are closing on the first call, you could basically do the same thing. You say, okay, look, I gotta talk to my manager, whatever. And then you pause the phone for a second and you say, okay, look, I talked to my manager, we can give you the discount if you close it by the end of this day. And then they're gonna be like, okay, cool, I get a good deal, boom, boom, done. So the technique is really like, you don't want to just give a discount for free. If somebody says, can I get a 20% discount? You can't just say, okay, sure, I'll give you 20%. And they're gonna be like, oh, that's too easy, let me ask for more, right? Because people are kind of like that. Not everybody, some people are fair, but you gotta understand that most people are not that fair and they're always trying to lower their costs. So you have to make it seem like every time you give someone something that it's not easy to give, right? You can't just give away free discounts. And not only that, but you have the prospect asking for those discounts has to also give something to you back in reciprocation. So if you give them a discount, say, okay, we'll give you this, but you have to sign by this day. And so it's a trade, right? The prospect saves money, you sign the deal faster, you get the revenue quicker, you save more time, you can move on to the next person and generate more revenue, right? So it has to work on both sides. If someone is asking so much from you, they're asking for a discount, free services, this and that. If that's happening and you feel like they're not really giving you anything and they just ask, and ask, either they have a really good position of leverage and they have the leverage to ask you without giving anything in return, or they're probably just taking advantage of you and they know that you're not going to, stand your ground, right? So that's why understanding these techniques is important as a seller, because some people, when they're buying, they're really good negotiators. So they are going to eat you alive like a shark. And they're not going to openly do it. If you're not aware and conscious of these techniques, then it's very easy to be taken advantage of as a salesperson. So that's why I'm teaching you guys this, so that you can use it to not only protect yourself, but also close more deals. Now we're gonna move into something kind of interesting, which is the ethics of closing, right? So some people watching this, if you made it this far, some people are gonna say, these are too high pressure techniques, sleazy, slimy, this and that, right? Totally understand, and I agree with you. It totally can be sleazy and slimy under certain conditions. For example, if you're using high pressure techniques, closing over the phone in one call, selling something someone shouldn't buy that they don't need or doesn't bring value or is overpriced, then yes, I wouldn't want someone to use these techniques in the wrong way to rip off a customer. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So it's only sleazy when, the customer loses, right? Where they're paying for something but they're not getting the value. That, when 100%, that is sleazy. However, if you are, let's say, offering more value than you asked for, and you really make the customer's life so much better, why wouldn't they want to buy sooner than later, right? You don't have to close them on the first call. You can close them in a couple days or a week. You don't have to close on the first call. I'm just showing these techniques to show you how to do it. But you can choose to close in a longer period of time if you want people to have more time to think about whether it's the right decision for them. Also, when it comes to closing, if you really stand by your product and service and the company stands behind that as well, offer guarantees, offer refunds. If the customer is not satisfied, allow them to get a refund or make it right. And make it easy for them to get that refund or make it easy for them to fix any type of problems. Usually it's the sleazy companies usually when I think of sleazy companies, it's people who use high pressure techniques. I guess you could say similar to the ones I'm teaching right now, but they are selling things that don't really provide much value, or the price is way overinflated for the value they provide. and they make it extremely difficult to get refunds and extremely difficult to fix any type of problems when it comes to the customer service after you buy. So yes, it's completely sleazy if you use these techniques to sell something people don't need or they shouldn't buy. Now, if you offer amazing service, you just blow them out the water with value, where if they feel like they're stealing from you because of how much value you're providing for the price you're asking for, then it's a little different, right? Because people won't call you sleazy or slimy. They'll be like, why is this person giving me so much value for so little? That's ridiculous. I wouldn't blame a technique itself for being sleazy and slimy and things like that. It's more about what is the offer? Like, what value do you actually provide? Because you might find that, let's say you're selling something amazing that people absolutely need in their life. So, it's all about the data, right? So like, let's say you're looking in your CRM, you're like the VP of sales, and you say, okay, when our sales reps, try to close on the first call, closing ratio is 75%. So 75% of the deals of salespeople on the phone, they're gonna close. If we don't use those techniques and that people have to follow up and things like that, there's only a 40% chance that they're going to close. So 75 to 40%, even though they're buying the same exact thing with the same exact offer, the only difference is using the technique in the beginning versus trying to follow up. Well, if you stand by what you believe in, why wouldn't you want to close on the first call, right? Because you increase your closing ratio, you increase your revenue, and you basically help more people in the world, right? So actually it's the selfish thing to not use the techniques to close them on the first call, because they're missing out on an opportunity. So it would be like 35% of the people who had the opportunity to save money, time, or things like that don't actually get to do it because you decided not to use those techniques, right? So, like I said before, it's not necessarily about the technique itself, right? And if you don't like the techniques, okay, you don't have to use it. There's many different ways to close, right? You don't have to close on the first call. But understand, it's not so much the technique, it's more about what the thing you're actually selling is. Because you would find, because from my experience working at Oracle and understanding enterprise sales and things like that, a lot of enterprise companies use the same exact techniques that I'm using. So, like with Facebook, Google, Oracle, Salesforce, Microsoft, would they be seen as sleazy companies? Not necessarily, because they're offering a lot of value for what they provide. But do they use, certain techniques to get people to close on a certain timeline that's beneficial for them, hitting their quota for the year or for the quarter? Absolutely, they absolutely do, right? So again, it's not the technique itself you should look at. You should look at the whole business as a whole. And is what you're selling providing value? Do you believe in it? Will you make it right if the customer is not satisfied? And if you can answer those questions and you can sleep at night, then feel free to use the closing techniques in the way you want that actually benefits the world. So with that said, those are my tips on closing. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you want to take your sales game to the next level, check out my sales course, Sales Legacy. That's going to teach you everything you need to know about sales, from prospecting and closing deals. Link is in the description, so make sure to check that out. With that said, my name is Patrick Deng, and I'll see you guys in the next one.